Andre. As I said before, I am David. Just spoke with Yemi. Then we have Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, have you said hello? I didn't hear you say anything.
Hi.
Okay.
Hello.
So we are all ambassadors of Email Rich. I'm sure you might have heard of Email Rich discussion with Yemi. So
Mm-hmm.
we are bringing you here onto our podcast to talk about Spotlight on Addiction.
Yes.
Like we all know, addiction is something a lot of people are struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of all of us have would have an experience or know someone who has had an issue with addiction or struggling with addiction. So we would just like you to just tell us all you know on addiction, what is addiction, and when can we say someone is addicted, probably the kind of signs to look out for, the elements, the triggers, and stuff like that.
Yes. Uh, so should I start already?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay. My name is Andrea Otieno from Kenya. I am a teacher by profession, and I also do guidance and counseling for the teenagers. Mostly, I deal with teenagers. So in my school,
Oh, wonderful.
I am in charge of guidance and counseling, but I also offer my services to a few organizations within my area. So I was so much glad that Yemi reached out to me and we talk about this issue addiction because I know maybe a lot of us or maybe all of us have at some point of their lives have been victims of addiction. And
Yeah.
I also love the idea that doctors in the modern world are not thinking of addiction as a form of failing or some kind of choice. They treat it as a disease. It is something that is an ailment that somebody can go through, maybe through choice, or there are so many things in life that might lead one into any sort of addiction. So maybe on the very basic terms, someone would describe or define addiction as a compulsive physiological need for use or act or behavior to something. So as long as it is something that is compulsive and it satisfies some part of physiological demand, then that one we define it as addiction. So now it is classified as a disease that affects the brain and not a personal failing or choice by the doctors in the modern world. So most people think only of addiction when they talk about substance use. But researchers now suggest that addiction to substances works similarly to patterns of compulsive behavior like gambling, shopping, watching TV, online gaming, to so many other sorts of addiction. So the experts recognize two types of addiction. We have chemical addiction and we have behavioral addiction. So chemical addiction involves the use of chemicals, like depending on substances for survival or over reliance on drugs, like even medicinal drugs. Like I have my grandmother who cannot go to bed without taking paracetamol. I pretty much understand her situation because she's addicted to the painkiller, and mentally there's a way she's made to believe that her nights are only going to be peaceful if she has the paracetamol within the system. So we also have the behavioral addiction, where we have persistent behaviors or repeated behaviors. For example, there are people who can go to bed without masturbating, especially if they've gone through a life of loneliness or breakup, and somebody, okay, or they experimented it once and they realizes that it works. So much later, we are going to look at maybe how do people form these habits, or how addiction works. So I went through a couple of questions that you guys asked me that wanted me to maybe address, and I'll go through them, maybe not in a very direct approach.
Okay.
So the first one, like we have to look at how does addiction work. So first of all, there must be a reward system. So when you do something that you find enjoyable, the brain's neurotransmitter, or what we call the dopamine. There's a chemical that the brain produces that is called the dopamine.
The
So
good
the
feeling chemical.
dopamine, yes, it's a chemical. So it rewards it, or it reinforces your brain's association with the feelings that come out of doing a particular behavior. For example, somebody who is addicted to masturbation finds the sexual pleasure, that's the enjoyable part. So the dopamine reinforces the brain's association with the pleasure that comes with fulfilling of the self through masturbation, for example. So the reward system is very powerful when it comes to forming a habit in addiction. Then there is the next part, when what we call the cravings and tolerance. So the desire to experience a certain euphoria again and again also leads to addiction. For example, you take alcohol once and you feel high, and you like the high, or you used bang, and you kind of like the moment when you are high. Or let's say you go to a club, you meet so many friends that you're hanging out with, and therefore you crave for that company, or for the companion of friends. So it becomes a craving, and the more you do something, the more your brain produces the dopamine, and even the increased level of the dopamine. So you realize that the behavior is reinforced to your brain. So it goes back to what we started with, what we call the reward system. So when you tolerate a behavior, you crave for it. You begin craving for it. There's another part of when you form a disinterest in the daily activities of what you do. They say that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. Yeah. So when you stay disinterested in things that you do on a daily basis, you are prone to become an addict to any other thing. Because maybe, let's say, coffee, you start drinking coffee because you have nothing that you're doing. So you realize that you kind of liked coffee when you are doing nothing, and therefore you start doing it, and the pleasure comes in, and the brain, as usual, it starts producing the dopamine that will reinforce that particular behavior. And addiction to coffee, whether people will tell you, people will give you their confessions about their addiction with coffee. Oh, I had my heart racing and all that, and you won't want to care, because it gives you some kind of pleasure, and also the brain sort of reinforces it. So it's beyond your control, which leads us to the fourth way how addiction works, is the loss of control. This involves the inability to control a substance use or a specific behavior. And therefore, once you can control it, not everybody likes what they do or what they're addicted to. And so many confessions are made. Maybe after you take alcohol, you black out and you don't like the experience, but you start saying, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to stop using it. Or you masturbate and then you feel guilty because maybe a preacher in charge talks against this. So you feel like you want to come out of it. But the following day, when the triggers are available, you will find yourself doing the same things that you've confessed that you want to stop doing it. So you don't like it because there's part of your body, there's the conscious part of your body, of your brain, that knows that whatever you're doing is not is not the right thing, or it's going to create harm to your body. So we can go to maybe what we now look at and say that this is addiction, or what can we say now, this leads to addiction. So when you spend a large amount of time engaging in a behavior or an activity, for example, the online gaming, or maybe playing the PS, a lot of time that you use there, or if you go on Facebook over and over and want to comment on people's statuses, or just want to view what people are saying, and it's consuming a lot of your time, you're sure enough that this is a sign of addiction. Uh, the next sign is normally the urge to engage in it, even when it is harmful to your life or to your health. So you keep on doing it, and in as much as it is affecting your health, or people are telling you about it, you don't feel the need to stop it. So these are a very strong sign that addiction is creeping in. The third sign is using the behavior to manage unwanted emotions. Uh, there are people who are lonely and they say, I want to smoke weed so that I feel high. And the people who smoke weed talk about meditation. There's some kind of realm that you get to,
Yeah,
and it's a
get
bit
another level, another cloud.
yeah. It's like some sort of spiritual realm where you are. And when you are at that point, you forget about your pain, or it gives you an illusion, or it creates a world for you that maybe is safe, or maybe the brain lies to you that now you are above everything, you are strong, and all that. So once you find a replacement for the emotions that you don't want, and you do this thing over and over to do away with those emotions, then sure enough, addiction is creeping in, and that's a red flag. Then there's another sign: you are hiding the behavior or lying about it. For example, you're not proud to say that you drink, but you drink. That's a very early sign that you are prone to be addicted to drinking, because you don't want to share it with anybody. You don't want people to view you as somebody who is using the substance or a particular behavior, like gambling, for instance. You have somebody talking against it, but you gamble, and when people are talking about it, you don't want to confess it and say, I'm addicted to gambling, or I do gamble. That is another sign of addiction. Then lastly, maybe I can talk about the irritability or restlessness or anxiety, or even depression, or other forms of withdrawal symptoms when you attempt to quit. For example, you drink. When you try stop drinking, you find you are depressed, or you become very anxious. It's a very clear sign of addiction. So, the previous let's say researchers or medics were talking about addiction largely on substance abuse, but we look at the contemporary world and we ask ourselves, what are the new forms of addiction? What are the contemporary addiction? So the world has embraced technology, and it has come with its effect. For example, gambling is an addiction. I work for an organization that tries to it is an anti-gambling. So I founded a resource center where we support a boys club, and this boys club, they play soccer, but one of the rules is that you don't gamble. And of course, we rely on the information that is provided maybe by the people close to them, but we tell them the harm that gambling causes to them, because they're not rich people. They're poor kids who can hardly afford maybe like $1 for gambling. So they may end up going to steal. to get money for gambling. So gambling is now a very contemporary issue that is affecting the African youth, because all the gambling companies, for example, in Kenya, I can count up to 20 gambling sites or 20 gambling companies that are just here in Kenya trying to look for the youth and bring them to the world of gambling. So if they can't afford it, they will do anything they can to ensure that they can gamble. There's another one, the internet gaming. So I like it that the researchers now call it the internet gaming disorder. It is a disorder actually, because there are people who can't get off the benches and the internet trying to play online games. Some are for money, some are just for fun. You find a partner maybe in the US and you playing games over and over and over to the wee hours of the night. So that's another new form of gambling. Then
Okay, Andre, sorry to cut you short. Okay, so you made mention of the amount of time spent on an activity. So
yes.
I just want to get clarity. So if one doesn't spend a long time doing a particular thing,
Yes.
can we classify it as an addiction? Must it be that the person must spend a lot of time doing that particular thing? What of if the person doesn't, for instance, if the person does a particular thing, like maybe 3 hours every day, or another person does that same thing for 1 hour, maybe 1 hour every weekly. So I
Yes.
want to know, before we say an activity is a sort of addiction, must you spend a long time consistently, or it
Yes.
doesn't matter?
Oh yeah. I say that the time you spend in it really matters. And yes, I will tell you this, that if we have one person waking up in the morning, spending 3 hours going through Twitter, going through Facebook, going through Instagram, seeing, like, catching up, the fear of missing out, FOMO. So if that happens, then sure enough, this person is addicted. But there is me that wakes up in the morning and I check on my Facebook for maybe news or for maybe updates. And I'm not gonna spend like 30 minutes on my phone, or I'm not going to even spend 15 minutes on my phone, because I'm waking up, I want to go to work. The whole day, I will not touch my phone. I will not go online to check what's happening. I will only check what's happening online, maybe 5 minutes before I sleep, and see who has done what. And over the weekend, I know I can spend 1 hour online, because that is the time when I share maybe a book I have read. I do a review there and I want to see people's reactions. Also, I talk about maybe mental health. I post it there online and I want people to interact with it. And therefore, I know I need much more hours. So the effect is here. Is it affecting their job or their daily routine? Are they running late to work because they spend more hours on the phone in the morning? Are they failing to attend to duties? For example, a teacher has missed a class because he was online. Yes, that's addiction. So me, who spends less hours, or just 15 minutes per day, is not addicted to internet. But
Oh,
somebody
okay.
who can spend 1 hour, more than 1 hour per day, or even 1 hour per day, that is already addiction to social media. It goes on and on. The time you spend in the bar, how many hours can you be in a bar? Or how many hours can you sit drinking? It's all on the time. Time is the capital that is now is traded here.
Okay, thank you for shedding more light. Okay, so this will lead to my next question, or I wouldn't say question per se. So I have friends who spend a lot of time on Twitter, even at the
Yes.
expense of other things. So the excuses, because Twitter is a sort of place where they get information firsthand, they know what's happening worldwide. So when I try to convince such people, like, we are spending so much time on Twitter, why can't you just use your time to do other things? Like, no, they are getting a lot of information. They'll now ask me, okay, even me, that I'm claiming that I'm not an addict or spending too much time, what do I know that they know more than me? After all, they are investing their time. That's the word they use. They are investing their time.
Yes.
getting information. So would you say that sort of thing is an addiction?
Yes, that is a not just addiction, but a high form of addiction, because what are you doing with this information? Is it bringing money to your life? Yes or no? You can have a weekend where you can know a review of everything that has happened in the course of the week. You
Okay.
can't be like the anxiety or the eagerness to have information tricking in all the time is already an addiction. And the part of their brain that tells you, tells them to tell you that you are also missing out, or you are in, or they are investing their time, that is the dopamine. It is doing the reinforcement so that it forms a defense mechanism to tell you, or to sell you some sort of an hypothesis that this is the rationale for what we are doing. So that's dopamine talking there. It's not them talking.
Mm, okay, I
Yes.
see. So in
Mhm.
essence, it should be done in moderation.
Yes, it should be done on moderation. For example,
Moderation.
you should check your Twitter when you're driving. That's crazy. I shouldn't check my Facebook account because I've just had maybe a comment or a notification on my phone, and I'm in the middle of work and I stop to look at it. That is that that's crazy. That's addiction already. So we should be very moderate. The time is the value here. How much time do you have or do you spend on a particular activity? It defines the addiction.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know if Joy, can you hear us? I don't know if you have anything to say or contribution or questions to ask. And I think Sarah too is here.
Mhm.
Hello, Sarah, can you hear us?
Yes,
Hello,
I can
Sarah.
hear you. Good evening.
Okay, good
I
evening, Sarah.
can hear you. Can you hear me? Good
Yes, loud
evening.
and clear. Yeah, so I just wanted to know if you had anything to say or add, so it won't be like you left out, and because the address is really revealing a lot of things. Okay, let's moving
Exactly.
on. You want to say something, Sarah?
No, I said exactly. It's revealing a whole lot.
Okay, so I like it that when you were talking of addiction, you didn't emphasize only on, okay, I think you classified it under chemical addiction, that's substance, because in this part of where we live, this part of the world, when you mention addiction, the next thing people are thinking is you're taking drugs, you're taking weed and all. I like that you try to elaborate and you're not even talking of
Mhm.
focusing on chemical addiction, which you are really familiar with. So
Yeah.
I would like to, or I want to say that could it be that the reason why there's a lot of addiction nowadays, is it like a lot of people are not aware? Could it be like there's lack of awareness among people? That's why there's a high rate of addiction recently or these days? Or people just decide to be addicted like forcefully?
Mhm.
What's your view?
Okay, that's a very important question again. It's not like people are making choices to be addicted. Number one thing I want to say is lack of awareness. You're not aware that this is a form of addiction. What we were
Mhm.
sold was the idea that addiction only involves substance abuse.
Drugs.
So if you're not smoking too much, if you're not drinking too much, any other thing that you're doing is not any form of addiction. So it's a lack of awareness. Secondly, maybe just very briefly, I want to say that the whole life is not as stable as it used to be. The 21st century came with its own demands, and therefore we are having people facing a lot of challenges, from lack of parentage to divided families to so many stress of life. And therefore people are looking for accessories to life that might distract them from the normal daily hassles, or so many unpleasant emotions that they have to live through every day of their lives.
Hmm. Okay. So basically, lack of awareness. I think I agree on that,
Yeah.
because now you made mention of when one has to spend a lot of time on Twitter. So in the person's mind, he thinks he's doing himself a favor,
Yeah.
not knowing that it's sort of addiction. Okay, so at least I can better talk to my friends on that so they could improve.
Yes.
Okay, Yemi, I think Yemi has something to say,
Mm-hmm.
or has one or two things to add.
Thank you, guys. This is a very intense kind of conversation. Thank you, David, for holding this down. Andre, it's good to have you. It's good to have you, and your research on this is quite revealing, and it's very nice. Like David once asked, we have issues where we don't even know we are addicted to something. We do not accept, or we do not agree, or we do not believe that we are addicted.
Yeah.
So what if we share our story? Like one of our colleagues here, her name is Joy, she's here, and she was the one that initiated that we need to have this talk on addiction. If you go, why we're using Twitter as an example, because we've been talking about Twitter as of late. I don't know if you saw the recent silhouette
The
challenge. Did you
challenges.
get to hear
Yes.
about it?
Yes.
Oh my God, that
Yeah.
that challenge! I'm sure that that just crave way to many unwanted, unconventional, all the bad behavior you could ever want to think about. So even for someone that is trying to deal with something that they are, avoiding, it just sort of uprooted it. And but how can we realize that, okay, if I should click on this, I am in for a danger. How can I not click on it? I think there should be that something within us that can always pull us back and say, don't click on it. If you click on it, you might get burned. There is fire on the mountain. So I'm going to push this question, like personally as a person. I'm sure, like you mentioned earlier, we've all suffered from one type of addiction, one way or the other. So
Yes.
your addiction that you've been able to manage, because I don't believe addiction actually leave totally. At what point do you, when you see those triggers, those cues coming in, at one point, what pulls you out of it? Like, Andre, don't even dare, don't stop. What is that thing?
All right. Thank you so much, Yemi. I will share a very personal story on addiction. When I was in Kenya, we have the high school system, which is 4 years. So when I was in my second year, I was addicted to porn. And addiction to porn, people talk of it on the surface, like viewing porn. It's never viewing porn. It's viewing porn and engaging in masturbation, and it becomes
Yeah.
very ingrained. So I don't like professionals who talk about addiction to porn and leave it on the surface. They need to go deep, because nobody is addicted to
There's
just
always an
watching porn.
aftermath.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all about doing it, having sex in the mind. So I became very addicted, and for the 2 years or maybe 3 years much later, it became part of me, and it is something I would do on the very regular. Whether I'm going to the shower, I will find space and I'll do it. When I'm in the house alone, I'll find space and do it. And it just took one moment to realize or to be made aware that this is a form of addiction, and we are going to look at also the effects of this particular addiction. So when I joined the university, and I wanted to come out, because not everybody feels very happy when they are masturbating. Trust me, I've had this conversation with so many friends. The guilt comes after you have done it. And you can promise yourself over and over that you're going to stop doing it. You're going to stop doing it. The preacher will talk about it in church. Some people will joke about it, and so on and so on. And you judge yourself. So The breaking point was when I joined the university, and I'm doing my course in guidance and counseling. Then I learned that the lecturer is also the university counselor. So when I visited him, I came out and I told him, this is my struggle. So the first thing that pulls somebody from addiction is understanding your self-worth. Once you define yourself and you know your value, this is the person I am. What do you want to be? You know, like the question we ask our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? When you see the person that you are, you start treating yourself with a lot of values. And when the trigger comes, I won't say it is easy. It takes a very high form of self-discipline to come out of it, to know that I am lonely and I am thinking about masturbation. Let me walk out and go meet people to distract me. So I call it the deliberate positive distraction. Distract yourself positively and deliberately.
Sorry, come again. What did you call that?
I call it deliberate positive distraction. You distract yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because you've seen the trigger. So what are you gonna do? You know your worth. You know you are in the process of making yourself the person that you want to be. So do you stick and face your demons that have dragged you to become the lesser person of what you want to be, or do you walk out and you triumph over it? That is a high form of discipline that maybe not everybody would have it. But if you say over and over to yourself, maybe you can overcome it. So it's not easy.
Fantastic. I totally agree with that. What did you call it?
Deliberate distraction.
Yes.
Deliberate positive distraction.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
as a Christian that I am, which is going to, Joy, are you ready to answer this question? Because I know she, just like you, you told me a few minutes ago that you teach young boys, you're about to counsel some young boys.
Yes.
Same way with Joy, she also counsel young people, and she had experienced different addictions from these people, and I've been able to help them identify and deal with it. I just like the way I tell people that I had my own past. Like I used to tell people I had multiple addictions, so it wasn't just one, it wasn't two, it wasn't three. As a Christian, you need to also pray, like James 4:7 tells us. So Joy, how do you think you've been able to help people overcome addiction? I hope your network is good because you're on the hill currently.
For me, because of my experience with addiction.
Could you speak up a bit?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Yes, yeah.
Much better.
Addiction. It was easy for me to counsel youth because my addiction started.
Okay, I think because you're using your earpiece, we can hardly hear you, Joy.
Yeah, okay.
Hear me now. Hello.
I think it sounds better.
Yes, better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was exposed to pornography at a very, very tender age. So as a result of curiosity, I started downloading a lot of pornography videos. I was very current with porn sites and all that. And because I didn't handle it properly, because then I was afraid to talk to anybody because I was afraid of being judged, or I was just ashamed generally. So when I went to the university, it became worse because you have time, you are all alone, idleness, and so many things. So it graduated to reading of sex stories. Like I would spend hours, like we share room now with a hard roommate, but anytime they are not around, I lock the door, I off the light, I close the curtain, it's always only me. Then I would spend hours researching and reading a lot of stories. And on the long run, it was having a terrible effect on me, like relationship with people, it affected my self-esteem. I couldn't stand in front of people. I didn't want to have conversation with people. Anything that wasn't involved, like sex stories or pornography, I wasn't interested. Like, I always wanted to be alone just because of that. But I found that was affecting me mentally, even my academics, then spiritually. And one of the things I did then was I asked for help. I cried out. I didn't tell myself, oh, I can handle it all by myself. I can do it all by myself. I'm a G. No, I spoke to someone about it, and I was determined to change. I took note of was that I jotted down, I wrote out how it was affecting me, like the effect of the addiction on me. And I took it one step at a time. I wasn't too hard on myself. That was one of what the person told me. I shouldn't be too hard on myself. I shouldn't give up. That there's definitely going to be relapses and all that. That is part of the process. So what helped me then was just consistency. I was very consistent, and I avoided what was triggering the addiction, which was idleness. Because the thing is, if you don't attack the triggers, it will keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. For example, if your addiction is alcohol, and you're always finding yourself at parties, at functions or social functions that they're always drinking, you'll be tempted to take it. So I avoided being idle. Another thing again I did was to replace the habits. Okay, I was fond of researching on sex stories. So I replaced it with researching on other things. That's what even made me to be good with research now. Like, it's very, very, very funny, but it made me to be good with research because I replaced that habit. Some people don't do that. What they do is they just attack the triggers and leave it like that. You will get bored because you've stopped doing something. You have to do another thing to replace that particular thing you were doing before. For example, if you are fond of gambling, or you are fond of eating too much, or sex, when you stop it, most times what I observe is that when somebody stops a particular addiction, in the verge of trying to escape from that addiction, they develop another addiction. For example, you are running away from alcohol, you don't want to take drug again, and you're engaged in sex, or you're engaged in overeating. Before you know it, you're addicted to sex and you're addicted to food. So one of the things I usually tell people that I counsel is that just take it a step at a time. Don't be too hard on yourself. Know your triggers. Like, it's very, very important. That's why a lot of people, if you're in denial of the addictions you have, you would not get solutions for it. You have to accept, oh, I have addiction. This is what is making me addicted. Okay, what are the steps I have to take to stop this particular thing? And like Andre said, it is a process. You do not just jump on, you just decide, oh, I want to stop doing this thing, and it just happens immediately. It takes a long time. There's a video that was trending on Twitter of a woman that was a vegetarian, or is a vegetarian, and she ate goats. I don't know if we all watched that video. She ate goats, and she was crying and crying and crying. That video was funny, but not funny, because to that woman now, she's going to break down, and that breaking down, if she doesn't pick herself up and continue with, oh, it's just a mistake, or it's just for a day, I can easily go back to being a vegetarian, she would just be, that thing can lead to serious depression. Like, it's funny that, oh, why is she crying on all that? That's how it is with addiction. You might think you might have relapse. It might be like for 4 years you stopped drinking, or for 4 years you stopped masturbating, for 4 years you stop pornography, and something just happens and you just find yourself doing it. If you don't pick yourself up at that point, you will go back to zero. Like, you have to start the process again. So most of the time, the relapses is just you have to work on self-control. So even when it happens, you just see it as a process and you celebrate. It's okay to celebrate that, oh, I've achieved, I didn't do it for 4 years. Okay, today I did it. Oh, I pick myself up and I say, I won't allow it to happen again. And I observe what happened that led to me having that relapse. So it's important that you are consistent, because the thing is, the society now is a market. Like, even when you don't want to engage in a particular thing, is everywhere, is all over. Internet.
It just jumps at you.
Exactly, it jumps at you.
Yeah,
And it has to be a conscious effort. You have to tell yourself, okay, even if everybody's doing it, I won't. Even when you are faced with the triggers like this, because of the effect, you remember the effect it had on you. Like some people, for example, gambling, you lose a lot of things. Financial crisis, relationship, you can lose your job. And imagine after a while you stop gambling and you want to start gambling again. You have to think of the consequences you faced because of it. So you have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm just talking about it.
You were you were really flowing. Why did you cut your flow? You were really in the spirit with, you started with
enjoying it. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, you just like the way we enjoyed Andre, and he was really dishing out with research, sharing his life experience. Same way you did.
He actually took me off balance. Like I didn't see that coming. All the information he gave, I didn't just see that coming.
Just the way I didn't see it coming from Joy, and it's really nice to have you both. Just to let you know, this is not the last of it. This is more like the starting of this conversation, because eventually we will be needing you, Andre, to to counsel people, a lot of young people. We know that a lot of young people are addicted to majorly pornography, masturbation, wasting time online, alcohol, and all these things that some even feel that their life is done for. They do not have anywhere to go, no help. And look at you, look at me, look at us. Yeah, we've been able to fight it and recover from it. So thank you so much. Over to you, David.
Okay, thank you, Joy, for that. So, Andres, I would just like to ask, because we're about rounding up now. So, what would you say as your closing remark? Maybe for someone who is battling addiction, what would be your sort of advice to that person?
Well, thank you so much once more. What I can say to someone who's battling addiction is that it is something that everybody goes through, and it is not.
They're not alone. They're never alone.
Yes, they're never alone, and it has the effects. And the earlier they begin the journey to battle it, the better. And there is no shame in coming out and explaining your addiction to somebody. You just need one person, whether it's a friend, and if you're scared, I mean, you can get so many people. They're priests, they're pastors. Maybe you're scared of these ministers of religion. You want to go to counselors. There's somebody that you can open up to. If they won't help you, they will refer you to somebody who can help you. So they should keep doing, keep making the steps towards changing that particular behavior. They are not alone, and there's no shame in sharing your dirty linen. There's no shame.
Okay, so in summary, anyone who wants to battle addiction must speak out, must reach out.
You must speak out.
Okay, like my people here will say, Soros, okay. Okay, Joy, I also want to, do you also have any closing remarks or advice? Or maybe just give a comment?
Okay, so one of the things I would say is anybody that is battling addiction, don't be too hard on yourself. Another thing again is don't leave emotions unattended to. Don't pile up emotions. Like if you are feeling stressed, if you are feeling depressed, if you're afraid of something, it's okay to talk to someone about it. It's okay to seek for help, because most of the time, all these things pile up, and because you are trying to escape your emotion, trying to just push it aside, you engage in things you're not supposed to. So it's okay to ask for help. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, there are so many platforms now for seeking for help. Like, if you don't want to be known, it can be anonymous. Like, just ask for help at every point you can. Another thing again I would say is know your triggers and avoid them. Know your triggers and avoid them. Another thing again I would say is replace the habits. Like, don't just what's the word now, don't just stop a particular thing, replace it with something else. It can be the gym, it can be writing, it can be just something that is productive and will take your time. And there's a word that say an idle man is the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
Don't be idle, get busy, volunteer for something, go out, because when you are alone, you start thinking of things that you're not supposed to. Like, even the devil self is looking for who to be keeping nonsense to the ears. So if you're alone, you will start thinking of things to do, and before you know it, you start losing control of the things that you don't do before. Another thing again is have a support system. Like, have someone that keeps tab on you. Like, it can be a friend, it can be a counselor, it can be your pastor, like Andrea said. It can be anybody that would ask you, okay, so how did your week go? Did you engage in this? And you are totally honest. If you are not honest with yourself, there would not be progress. So you have to be honest. If it's that you had a relapse, you just tell the person, oh, I did this, and both of you will walk through it again, and you just try to find a solution to the problem. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Joy. I think I like that support system, which is very, very key. Someone who you can share your thoughts with and keep track with. Thank you, Joy. Hello, Sarah. Any parting words from you, or advice or recommendation?
She's observing.
Said it all. You said it all.
Okay.
For me, I believe in reaching out to somebody. Being quiet should not come up as an option. You should always just find the strength somehow to reach out to somebody.
Okay.
And I think at some point, sometime last week, I reached out to, I think it was it Yemi? I think it was Yemi I reached out to, because at the time I was feeling down. So I had to speak to somebody. I reached out to you. Yeah, exactly. So keeping quiet should not come up as an option. You just have to find your inner strength to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, thank you, Tira. Yemi also told me too. At the time, he said Sabai. So whenever you are pushed and you are losing control and all, you just need to find your Sabai.
Right.
So Yemi, I think you need to share with us what Sabai is, at least a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Where should I start from? There's this course that I did. It's called being a peace rebel. They actually did a course for it. It's called a peace rebel. You know, they realized that a lot of people do not understand what meditation is. You know, they don't know that meditation works. So at one point, I didn't even understand what meditation is. I thought it was just something fetish. People sit down, put their hands like this, and try to just all cool off. But after going through the course, I realized that it's just a way to let you find your center, that every energy that you need comes within you. The negative, the positive, they all within you. So you can find a way to focus on the positive. All you have to do is just realize that, you know what, I am not going to be stressed. I am not going to be pushed. I'm not going to fall into this trap. I'm going to find my sabai. That's what I call it, sabai. So when they say find your sabai, connect your positive. Yeah, David, you have to make me tell that story.
Yeah, you did. Okay, thank you, Yemi, for that. Thank you, Andre, for heeding to our call. I hope we can always reach out to you because I know this will be one of many more podcasts.
Sure, sure. I'm very
Okay.
open to any conversation around these kind of things, mental health, family, a lot of stuff. So just reach me out, then we do this.
Okay. And please, you could also tell your people in Kenya that email reach exists
Yeah.
so that they can always check us out and follow us on social media and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, can we connect with you on social media? These what are your
Yes,
handles and what social medias are you active on?
I am. I am very active on Facebook, on
Okay.
Twitter, not so much, and Instagram just a little bit, but
What
Facebook
about
fine.
LinkedIn?
Yes, I will share the link with Yemi, and maybe I think Yemi you can share with all of them.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you,
Absolutely.
Andres.
Mhm.
Thank you, Yemi. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Sarah, for joining.
All right.
Till we meet again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye. Bye.
David. Thank you too.
Bye.
Thank you for a wonderful coordination.
David.
Thank you,
Thank
Andre.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah, I see you.